Watching India Business Hour Plus. Now, the hostile takeover of tech firm Mindtree by Larsen & Toubro is almost complete, is what sources tell us. Sources also say that L&T's open offer has been fully subscribed and its stake in Mindtree is 60%. Now, the open offer closes this Friday. Now, with L&T acquiring control, Mindtree's founders who were resisting the takeover could be throwing in the towel by selling their stake and exiting the company. Kritika Saxena and Mugdha Varia now join us with more details. Kritika, coming to you first. The founders were resisting initially. But as far as the sale is concerned, it seems they have given up. They have thrown in the towel. What's the way forward for the founders?
Well, this has been one of the biggest hostile takeovers in the Indian IT sector, one of the biggest corporate battles in the history of corporate India. But now it has come to an end with L&T taking in a controlling stake via the open offer that started around 17. It will be ending on 28th. But we understand that with Nalanda Capital selling their 10.6% stake in Mindtree, Nalanda Capital, remember, was backing Mindtree founders. Now Mindtree founders have taken a very clear decision that they will be selling their stake and they will be exiting the firm. Now, how will they do that? Just to give you a quick idea of the shareholding first, Krishna Kumar Natarajan, who was the chairman of Mindtree, has 3.7% stake. Subrata Bakshi has 3.1%. And as Parthasarathy for 1.4%, Raustav Ravanan, who is MD and CEO, has about 0.7% stake. So these are the four key founders of the company. The remaining stake is held by their family and about 1.3% by a foreign promoter. We understand that all four founders are going to be selling, but some will do it via tendering in the open offer and some are going to do it over a period of time. So they will be selling via open market transactions after L&T's deal is complete. So this will ensure a smoother transition. So that's one part of it. We haven't gotten official statements from Mindtree or any of the founders yet. But the other part is what happens to the management now. We understand that L&T has already indicated that they will be rejigging the entire management structure. But over and above that, we also understand that Raustav Ravanan, who is the MD and CEO of the company, has given a clear indication that he would like to put in his papers, but Ravanan is likely to stay on till a clear successor is identified. So perhaps 6 odd months' time after the deal is completed, we are going to see a very clear stance or a clear view of how the entire management and board structure changes in Mindtree.
Right, Kritika, thanks a lot for those details. Now, let's take this conversation forward. Let's get Mugdha Varia in on this conversation. Mugdha, give us a breakup. Who all are likely to tender their stake in the open offer and who's likely to go ahead and sell it in the open market?
A big development this week in this whole corporate battle was Nalanda Capital tendering its entire 10.6% stake to L&T as part of the open offer. Remember, Nalanda Capital has been resisting L&T's takeover bid and was siding with promoters, but after facing pressure from other investors who had also reached out to SEBI, Nalanda Capital decided to completely, offload its stake in Mindtree to L&T, and this is really going to prompt other investors who are sitting on the fence to also start offloading their shares as part of this open offer. And so we are likely to see the likes of UTI MF, Arohi, Premji Invest also tendering their shares as part of this open offer. But a big name to watch is Subrata Bakshi, who is a key promoter of Mindtree, who holds 3.1% in the company, one of the largest shareholdings among the promoters. And we understand from sources that he is also likely to tender his shares to L&T as part of the open offer. Another key name is Mindtree founder S. Janki Raman, who had left the company in 2014, who holds 1.5% stake and is also likely to sell his stake as part of this open offer to L&T, is what we understand from sources. We've reached out to both of them, but they're still to respond. But they're big names who are going to start the ball rolling to, see the other founders also offloading the shares to complete this acquisition.
Right, Mugdha, Kritika, thanks a lot. Appreciate those updates on Mindtree takeover. Let's shift focus now. In a bid to merge 3 public sector general insurance companies, the government could provide 12,500 crore peak capital to these companies in the upcoming union budget. Now, sources tell CNBC-TV18 that capitalization is key for the merger of Oriental, National and United Insurance. Now, Sapna Das is here joining us with more details. Sapna, so fresh capital for these companies looks to be imminent. What's the plan after that?
Well, very clearly, if you look at the interim budget, let me just go back slightly in time. There was no clear allocation that had been done for this merger process, and this was an earlier announcement made by the ex-finance minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley himself, that the three companies will have to be merged. As you rightly pointed out, there is no question of this merger going ahead without the capitalization. So we are given to understand that cash infusion of around 12,500 odd crores is what has been sought. How much of that really comes about in the union budget is something to watch out for. This cash infusion, I mean, why I'm insisting on cash is, of course, the process was always supposed to be in cash, not bonds. But at this point in time, even seeking this kind of money, and we have heard enough about the government's fiscal position. So 12,500 crores is not a small amount. That's one. So we have to wait and watch and see how much of that really gets allocated. That's one. The second aspect, of course, and a bit of a no-brainer here, that once the merger process goes ahead, and there is no clear timeline, as to 3 months or 4 months, you can't box these things into tight deadlines. It's a natural procedure that will unfold. There'll be realignment of processes. There could also be some human resource restructuring in these three companies. It will be very, very important to watch out for. So the next stage, of course, would be getting the merged entity listed. So that's the second plan. A two-stage plan is what we're given to understand. Last but not the least, what happens once the merged entity probably even gets listed? Well, will New India Assurance acquire it at that point in time? I think that's a question that's a bit far away. So within government circles as of now, immediate capitalization is what is being sought, and then the merger process has to roll out.
Right, Sapna, thanks a lot for that blueprint. Let's move ahead now. A quick look at some of the other headlines of the day. Amitabh Kant gets a 2-year extension as the CEO of Niti Aayog. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet has approved the extension of his tenure till the 30th June 2021. The Central Board of Direct Taxes decides to assist public sector banks in speedy recovery of bad loans, issues a directive to its top officers to start sharing asset information on defaulters with the annual income of more than 50 lakh rupees. RNFS board to meet on June 28th. Sources say it will discuss options to raise funds from assets not seeing enough investor interest. The RNFS board may also consider sale of new assets as well as the InvIT route for swifter monetization. The Board of Market Regulator SEBI is set to meet tomorrow. Sources tell us that at this meeting, the SEBI board may consider the proposal to overhaul various regulations for the mutual fund industry. Adanching incident in Jharkhand. Speaking in the Raj went on to stress that those responsible blaming the entire state for the incident.
सदन में कहा गया कि झारखंड मॉब लिंचिंग और मॉब वायलेंस का अड्डा बन गया है। माननीय सभापति जी, युवक की हत्या का दुख यहां है, सबको है, मुझे भी है और होना भी चाहिए। दोषियों को कड़ी से कड़ी सजा भी मिलनी चाहिए, लेकिन क्या एक झारखंड राज्य को दोषी बता देना यह शोभा देता है क्या? ये हिंसा की घटनाओं को भी हमने, चाहे वो घटना झारखंड में होती हो, चाहे वो घटना पश्चिम बंगाल में होती हो, चाहे वो घटना केरल में होती हो, हमारा एक ही मानदंड होना चाहिए।
Over 1 lakh more people have been excluded from the national draft National Register of Citizens released in Assam. It has added to the list of 40 lakh people already excluded from the NRC. The final list is to be out on the 31st of July. Rahul Gandhi has told Congress leaders that he is firm on stepping down as the party president. This even as a section of the Congress leadership urged the Gandhi sign to continue as the party chief. Meanwhile, members of the Youth Congress staged a demonstration outside Rahul Gandhi's residence, urging him to continue to lead the party. BJP leader Kailash Vijay Vargia's son Akash Vijay Vargia, who is a BJP MLA, has been arrested for thrashing a civic official in a viral video. Akash Vijay Vargia is seen beating the officer with a cricket bat. The officer was inspecting the demolition of a building which is reportedly illegal, and he was attacked thereafter. Karnataka's Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy lost his cool after protesters blocked the bus in which he was travelling. He snapped at them saying he would not help them because they voted for PM Modi in the Lok Sabha elections. He further threatened the protesters with a lathi charge if they did not clear the way. Samant Goel has been appointed as the new chief of the Research and Analysis Wing, or RAW. He will replace Anil Dhamsana. Arvind Kumar is the new intelligence officer. Meanwhile, Intelligence Bureau chief, he replaces Rajiv Jain. 8 days ahead of the FM Nirmala Sitharaman's maiden budget, the startup investors and entrepreneurs have their wish list ready. From standardizing minimum wages to strengthening the digital infrastructure, they have a long list of expectations from the finance minister. Mugdha Warrior caught up with some leaders from the sector to find out what they want from Budget 2019. Take a look.
The government aims to have 50,000 startups in the country by 2024. And while the Modi government has had a big focus on startups in its first term, entrepreneurs and investors want the Modi 2.0 government to address issues that still remain on the ground, especially around angel tax, GST, and creating a digital economy. We caught up with some of them to know what their expectations are from the budget.
The recent notification by DIPP and CBDT has gone a long way in changing it, but there are a few points that have to be cleared out in the notification. Primarily that loans and advances to companies should actually qualify. Startups should be able to make subsidiaries and actually make investments into shares as well, provided that these downstream investments comply with the regulation.
The grocery segment hardly has any margin to play with. So putting a TCS of 1% on the transaction value is actually onerous on them and actually stops the small merchants from participating in the e-commerce wave. So we believe that should be removed, at least for the segments where they are already enrolled under the GST scheme.
From a startup perspective, the digital infrastructure in the country has to be improved quite a bit. So when I talk about digital infrastructure, startups also are supposed to comply with a lot of regulations, a lot of filings. Of course, it's the motive is in the right direction. At the same time, even classic example of MCA portals or be it RBI, all of those filings and the infrastructure is not supporting enough, be it meeting the deadlines or otherwise.
My request would be on the formal side where you have an employer-employee relationship, we need to make sure there's standardization of minimum wages across the country for different job roles. It would also be nice to see if the PF rates could be reduced a little bit because, almost 10% of their wages goes. So they could definitely at those wage levels that I talked about, they could do a lot better with more take home today versus it going into a retirement fund.
Yeah, so one of the things the government has done is ease of business. We have talked a lot about it, but actually that is not translating it into action at the ground level. Although the vision is there in the government to enable ease of business, but this is not actually translating it in the ground reality. I think there has to be a very serious effort to actually make it a lot simpler.
Startups want the government to ensure that their policies don't just remain on paper, but are put to practice. What will particularly help startups is ensuring that these policies don't lead to a capital crunch, while also pushing for ease of doing business through better coordination and tech integration across the different verticals of the government.
Well, that's all the time that we have for. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.